Hello, my name is Michael Harris with Johnson Controls in Lubbock, Texas. Today we're going to be talking about the 6 air handlers for Weeks Hall at Texas Tech here in Lubbock. These air handlers have 2 tiers, a bottom and a top tier. The bottom tier is supply fan tier, the top tier is exhaust fan tier. When we talk about the bottom supply fan tier, we'll start with the 100% outside air to each air handler. That air goes into a set of 2-inch pleated filters that will require normal maintenance. Those 2-inch pleated filters are monitored via pressure drop back to Metasys. After the filters, we then have the preheat coil with hot water. After the preheat coil, we then enter the supply fan section of the vertical desiccant wheel. That wheel is in this large vertical cabinet. The motor that drives the wheel has an external disconnect located here. That supplies power to the motor, which then has a pulley system with a belt that turns the large wheel. The maintenance that would be required for this desiccant wheel would only be the belt. If you have slippage when you apply power to the belt, then you would replace that belt. The other would be if that wheel becomes dirty, you would use 20 psig or less of compressed air to clean the wheel. In severe cases, the wheel can be flushed with water. You would want to refer to the O&M manual for those instructions. From the desiccant wheel, we then have the cooling coil. The cooling coil has chill water. We then have a reheat coil with hot water. From there, on the supply fan tier, we then have a set of backdraft dampers. Each cabinet has external opening doors with non-locking handles. After the manual backdraft dampers, you then have the supply ECM motors. Mounted to each supply cabinet is the external light switch for the LED vapor-proof lights located throughout each air handler. Each supply fan assembly has multiple ECM motors that run simultaneous. They are driven by inverters that will increase and decrease their speed via static pressure. From the supply fan, we then have the discharge air to the building, which does include a manual reset high static pressure switch. When we go to the exhaust tier or top tier, we then have return air from the building coming first to a second set of 2-inch pleated filters that are also monitored for pressure drop. After the 2-inch filters, we then enter the exhaust or upper section of the vertical desiccant wheel. The vertical desiccant wheel's primary focus is to remove humidity from the outside air as necessary. It also does temper the air. From the vertical desiccant wheel, we then have another set of manual backdraft dampers, and then multiple ECM motors for the exhaust fan assembly before the air is exhausted outside the building. For both the exhaust fan and the supply fan, we do have manual motor protection with external disconnect. One for exhaust, one for supply fan. Each one of those does also have fuses. Those fuses are sized specifically for the array. Please refer to the submittal for the fuse sizes. That concludes the training for each of these 6 air handlers. We do appreciate you choosing York Air Handlers and working with Johnson Controls For further assistance or questions, please call our local office. Thank you.